everybody and welcome to Rocco Baby Crochet, and have I got a little autumn Halloweenish treat for you all today. So we're going to be making these gorgeous little pumpkin hats which I've added a little stalk to, a couple of curly vines and this gorgeous leaf. I really do love how this leaf has turned out on this pattern. So the sizes that we've got here, I've done it in 4 sizes. So we'll start with the biggest. So I've done it in this larger size to fit a toddler, this next size down which will fit a 6 to 12 month old, and then we've got the smaller 2 sizes. This one is 3 to 6 months and this is for a newborn baby. So the free written pattern with all the gauges and the dimensions, the circumference, the height of the hat, they're all available for free for you over on my blog, and there's a link to the pattern in the description to this video below. For this video I'm going to be making one of these newborn size ones, but I will briefly go through what you need to do to make the larger sizes. I'll talk you through how we increase it up the sizes, so you don't need to leave us. Stay where you are and enjoy the tutorial. If you are one of my returning viewers, then thank you so much. I really appreciate the support, and if you've just found the channel for the first time, I really do hope you enjoy this tutorial. Stick around and consider subscribing so that you don't miss out on my next free pattern, and it will also just support Rocco Baby Crochet as well. So let's take a look at the materials that we need to make our lovely pumpkin hats. So here's everything that I've used to make my pumpkin hats. I've used the Stylecraft Special double knit, and the green colour that I've used is called Cypress. This orange one is the colour Spice. You'll also need a 4mm crochet hook, a pair of scissors, a darning needle, a stitch marker will definitely come in handy when we come to making the stalk, and a tape measure just to make sure that your gauge is the same as mine, so your hat will definitely fit the size of child that you're making this for. So grab your yarn, grab your hook, grab a cuppa, and let's learn how we make our pumpkin hats together. To begin, we're going to need to make a slip knot and just pop that onto our hook. And for this tutorial I'm going to be making the newborn size hat, so I'm going to need to make a foundation chain of 28. I'll pop the different foundation chains up on the screen for you, but just quickly, for a 3 to 6 month old you're going to need to chain 32, for a 6 to 12 month old you'll need to chain 36, and for a toddler you'll need to chain 38. I'll also pop a link in the description box below over to my blog where you'll find the free written pattern for all the different sizes that you need to complete this project. But for the newborn size I'm just going to chain 28, so I'm going to yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through. So there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27 and 28. So once you've got the foundation chain that you need for the size that you're making, we're going to start working in the second chain from the hook. This yarn that's on my hook is my working yarn and doesn't count as a stitch. Here is my first chain and here is my second chain. So you can, if you want, work your stitches into this top loop here of the foundation chain, which is a bit more traditional, but I like to work into these back bumps, which are the bumps you can see running down the center of your chain when you turn your chain over. Each one of those back bumps is a chain. So here is my first back bump and here is my second, and it's into this second back bump that I'm going to work my first UK half treble crochet. So I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook into that second chain, yarn over and pull up a loop, so you'll have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. The pattern for these hats is all the same for these rows, you'll just have a different amount of stitches, and when it comes to the end, the larger the hat is, the more rows that you'll need. So into every chain along for row 1, we're just going to be placing 1 half treble crochet, remembering that I use UK terminology, so in the US these are half double crochets. So I'm just going to yarn over, move into my next chain along and place another one, yarn over again, move into my next chain along and place another UK half treble crochet. And for this newborn size, at the end of row 1 I should have 27 stitches. So if you want to make your way along, placing 1 UK half treble crochet in every chain along, press pause and come back to me when you're ready to move up to row 2. I'm just placing my last half treble crochet into my very last chain, and that completes row 1, and at the end of row 1 this is what you should be looking like. Now row 2 is our repeat row, and to move up to every row we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. The chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, it's just a turning chain, so we're going to be working directly into the stitch that's underneath that turning chain, which is here. So to get the ribbed effect, what we need to do is UK half trebles back loop only, all the way across, 1 in every stitch. So when you look at the top of your work, and you do need to turn it, rotate it slightly towards you on about a 45-degree angle, you'll see the 2 strands of yarn that make up the top of these stitches. The loop that's closest to you is your front loop, the loop that's furthest away is the back loop, and it's underneath that back loop where we're going to be placing our hook for the stitches in this pattern. So what we need to do is we yarn over, insert your hook just underneath that back loop there, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. Move into your next stitch. Again, you'll need to just rotate your work towards you a little bit to see the top of those stitches. Yarn over, insert under just the back loop only, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. And you'll do that placing 1 UK half treble crochet in every stitch along for row 2, and your stitch count should remain at 27 stitches. So if you want to press pause and come back to me when you're ready to move up to row 3, and we can do that together. I'm just placing my last back loop only half treble crochet, and that completes row 2. So we're just going to repeat that over and over. So I'm going to chain 1, turn my work, I'm working only into the back loops again. I'm going to place a UK half treble into this very first stitch where my chain 1 is coming out of, remembering that that chain 1 is a turning chain and it doesn't count as a stitch, and 1 half treble crochet in every back loop all the way across. Your stitch count will remain at 27 if you're doing the newborn size. If you're doing the 3 to 6 month old, it'll remain at 31, 6 to 12, 35 stitches, and for the toddler you should always remain for every row 37 stitches. So we're just going to repeat this over. For the newborn size, you're going to want to repeat this until you've got 36 rows. For the 3 to 6 month old, repeat until you've reached 40 rows. 6 to 12 month old, repeat until you have reached 46 rows, and for the toddler size you'll need 52 rows. So if you want to press pause and work your way up to the desired size that you need, and then come back to me and I'll show you how to complete the hat. I've completed all my rows now for the newborn size, and hopefully your project is looking a little bit like this as well. So what we want to do now with your hat is we need to join it all together. So what you want to do is just fold your hat in half, and we're going to slip stitch the hat together, and we should have the same amount of slip stitches joining these 2 ends together as we did stitches per row. So for this, because mine's the newborn, I'm going to do 27 slip stitches, and what I do is I haven't added a turning chain here, I just go directly underneath the top of the 2 strands of yarn that make up that stitch, my last stitch that I've just placed, and then I'm also going to go under both the loops that make up the top of this stitch, which is on the opposite side. If you can hear a little paw sounds, then I've got the kitty cats here. So then you're going to yarn over, pull through all of those, and you've got 2 loops on your hook, and then just pull through again to slip stitch. And then what you need to do is move into your next stitch, so insert your hook from front to back onto both the strands of yarn, and then through both the strands of yarn of the stitch on the opposite side, and we're going to place another slip stitch there. You want to keep these slip stitches nice and loose, you don't want it pulling your hat too much, so pull them nice and high and then pull through. Yarn over and place another slip stitch there, and I'm just going to continue this all the way down, making sure that I don't miss any stitches and that my stitch count remains at 27. So if you want to press pause while you slip stitch your hat together, and come back to me when you're ready to move up to the next part, and we'll do that together. So I've just got 2 slip stitches left to place, making sure I'm still going underneath all the 4 strands. Now the last one is turned in on its side a little bit, so just be sure you don't miss that last stitch. So you should be counting as you go along to make sure your stitch count always remains the same. So there's my last slip stitch placed, and then I'm just going to chain 1, and I'm going to cut off a length of a loose end, which is a good length. It's probably about 10 to 12 inches, and then snip that off. Pull up on your chain 1 to pull that loose end all the way through, and then hold that chain 1 between your thumb and finger and pull firmly on that loose end just to secure it. What I then like to do, just to make sure it's definitely nice and secure, is just tie a little knot in the 2 loose ends that I've got here. And again, make sure you hold the knot before you pull it, so you don't pull your hat out of shape at all. And now what we want to do is we're just going to close the top of this hat a little bit to make the top of the hat. So you want to grab your darning needle next. So once you've threaded your darning needle, we're ready just to close the top of this hat up a little bit. And I like to do it in between each of the ridges so that my needle is running underneath the ridge that is popping outwards, just to keep these ridges looking nice when we pop the little stalk on the top of our hats. So I'll go into this row, go behind the ridge and back out, then back in from the front to the back, underneath the ridge and back out, and I'll just keep doing that all the way around with my needle until I get back to the beginning. So in, out, in and out, in and out. And so I've reached my beginning again, but I'm going to leave it pass through on the inside. And next we're just going to pull on this yarn that's attached to our needle, and it'll just bring the top of our hat together, but you do want to leave a little bit of a hole because we're going to pop the stalk on the top. So I've pulled it together just till I've got that little hole up on the top, and then I'm just going to do another knot in the 2 loose ends before I just quickly weave them in on the inside. So this is the right side of your hat that's facing you. So to weave in your loose ends, turn your hat inside out, and I like to just run it under the back loops only, just so you can't see this, of a couple of stitches on the inside of the hat, and I go back and forth 3 times. So just take your time, be a little bit patient. You don't want these popping through on the other side. You want it to be nice and neat. So that's my 3rd time through, and then I'll trim that. Give it a little pull just to make sure it's not pulling on anything in the hat. grab your scissors and just snip that loose end out of the way, and then just repeat that step with this second loose end. So there's my hat. I've weaved in my second loose end, I've turned it right side out again, and I'm going to grab my green yarn now, and we're going to make the little add-ons for the hat. The pattern for the top of the hat, the stalk, the curly vines and the leaf is the same pattern regardless of which size hat that you're making. To make the stem for our pumpkin hat, you're going to want to take your green yarn, your 4mm crochet hook, and you will need a stitch marker for this part because we're going to be working in the spiral, so a stitch marker will come in really handy because it's quite easy to lose track when you're working in the spiral. So to begin, we need to make a magic ring. To make the magic ring, you place the loose end of yarn over the back of your fingers and hold on to it with your thumb, and we're going to make the letter X by wrapping the yarn around and then pull it straight back down. So when you turn your hand over, you've got 2 parallel strands of yarn, and you're going to pop your hook underneath this first one and grab onto the one at the back. Pull that underneath the first strand of yarn, twist your hook upwards and grab back onto that back strand of yarn and pull it through. And that's how we make the magic ring. Then you'll just want to turn the ring so the loose end is towards the left and pull on that until it's a manageable size for you to work around. So into this ring, what we want to do is we're going to place 8 UK double crochets, US single crochets, and what's important when we're working around a magic ring is that we go through the magic ring but also around this loose end, so when we pull it together it all pulls together nice and neatly. So I'm just going to hold both of those together, insert my hook into the middle of that magic ring underneath the loose end and the ring, yarn over, pull up a loop, 2 loops on my hook, yarn over and pull through both of those loops. Then I'm going to go straight back in and place a second one. Then I'm going to grab my stitch marker and just pop that into my very first stitch. And I'm going to continue placing double crochets until I've got 8 of them. So I've got 2 at the moment, so there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and there's 8. Then if you pull on this loose end, it'll draw the magic ring together and close it up. Don't worry about pulling it overly tight at the minute because we'll secure this ring in a second once we've got a couple more rounds. So for the stalk part of the pumpkin hat, we're going to be working in the spiral, and for the next 7 rounds, so in total we'll have 8 rounds, including this one that we've just done, we'll be placing 1 UK double crochet in every stitch along. So let me just pop my stitch marker out, and then I'm just going to insert my hook underneath the top of this very first stitch that we did, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both loops. Then I'll place my second one, and then I always pop my stitch marker back in just so I make sure that my stitch count remains the same. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. Then I'll pop my stitch marker out, so that's round 2 completed. So we're moving on to round 3. So back into that first one and place a UK double and 1 in every stitch around. Again, our stitch count will remain at 8. Pop my stitch marker back in. So there's 3. 4, 5, 6, 7, and here's my last one, 8. And you'll notice how the stitches are going. Your stalk is actually the wrong side out at the moment. Once I've completed round 3, I pull up a nice long loop, and then before it gets any taller, because it gets a little bit difficult to do this when the stalk gets larger, I just pull on this loose end here to fully close that hole that I've got there at the moment, so that the top of the stalk is all pulled together. And then what I'll do is, just before my stalk gets any larger and it becomes difficult to do, I'm just going to weave in this loose end exactly how I did with the pumpkin hat. So I'm just going to thread the loose end onto my darning needle, and then I'm just going to run my needle underneath the back loops of a couple of these stitches. And then I'll go back over, skipping the very last one I've just gone under. And you just have to have a little bit of patience doing this to make sure that it's nice and neat. And then I'll go back through for a third time, and then once I've done that, I'm just going to trim off this loose end and then turn my stalk right side out and continue working in a spiral until I've completed round 8. So I'm just about to start round 4 now, and I'm going to do it in exactly the same way I've done my first 3 rounds, popping my stitch marker out. So you'll find it's easier now to work around that we've got it the right side out, and placing 1 double crochet in every stitch. 1, 2, and not forgetting to pop my stitch marker back into that first stitch so I don't lose track. So if you want to work your way through up until round 8, press pause and come back to me when you're ready to move up to round 9. I've just completed my 8th round and I'm ready to start round 9, and what you want to do is pop your stitch marker out, and we're going to be placing a double crochet increase in every stitch around. So you're going to place 2 double crochets in every stitch. Pop your stitch marker back in, because we're still working in the spiral, before you move on to your second stitch, and your stitch count at the end of row 9 should be 16. So 2 into that stitch, and then placing 2 into my next stitch and every stitch along. So that's 3 increases. There's my next increase. Two into this stitch, 2 into the next stitch, and then I should just have 1 left to work into. 2, and I have, so I've reached my last stitch, so I'm going to place 1 last increase into that one, and then I'm ready to move on to round 10. So round 10, what we're going to do is pop our stitch marker out. Into the first stitch we're going to place 1 UK double crochet, and into the second stitch we're going to place an increase, 1 and 2. Pop your stitch marker back into that first stitch, and then we're just going to repeat that 7 times. So 1 double crochet into the next stitch, and then an increase into the next stitch, 1 and 2. 1 double crochet into the next stitch, and then an increase into the next one along. 1, back in to place my increase, 2, 1 double crochet into the next stitch, 2 double crochets into the next stitch, 1 and 2, 1 double crochet into the next stitch, 2 double crochets into the next stitch along, 1, 2, and we're just going to repeat this all the way around, and you should be finishing round 10 on an increase. So 1 into my next stitch and then an increase, so 2 into that stitch, and then my last set is here. I've got 2 stitches remaining, so my stitch count is correct. 1 double crochet into that one, and then my last increase, and place 2 into the next stitch. Pop your stitch marker out, and we're ready for the last round, which is round 11. So into the first 2 stitches we're going to place 1 double crochet into each of those. 1, 2, pop your stitch marker back in, and then into the third stitch you're going to place an increase, so 2 double crochets into that third stitch, and that's our repeat. So you're going to repeat that 7 times. So 1 double crochet into the next 2 stitches, 1 and 2, and then place a double crochet increase, so 2 double crochets into the third stitch along. 1 double crochet into the next 2 stitches, and then place your increase into the third one. 1 and 2. So if you want to make your way around repeating that, come back to me when you're ready to fasten off, and I'll show you how we attach this to the hat. I'm just at my last stitch of round 11, and again you should be finishing on an increase, so I'm going to place my last 2 double crochets into that stitch, pop my stitch marker out, and then just to join I'm going to slip stitch to the first stitch of the round, chain 1, and then I'm going to leave a long enough end to sew this stalk to the top of the hat. So you're going to want about 9 or 10 inches just to make sure that you cut off enough. Snip your yarn, pull up on that chain 1 to pull your yarn through, holding the knot between your thumb and your finger, and pull firmly on that just to tighten it up. Next, if you grab your darning needle, and we'll just thread that onto the long loose end that we've just cut off, and then we can sew this stalk to the top of the hat. So grab your hat so it's right side out again, pop the stalk roughly in the middle of it, and we're just going to mattress stitch all the way around. So you're going to go through the green base and through the top of the hat and pull through, and then you're going to come back out from underneath through the hat and through the next stitch along. Now you may know a nicer stitch to do this, but anybody who is regular on this channel will know that I am not a great sewer, so I just use a really basic stitch to do this. I'm sure it's called a mattress stitch, but I could be wrong about that as well. So if you are a good seamstress and you know what stitch I'm doing and it's not the mattress stitch, please feel free to correct me. So I'm just going in and out all the way around. So if you want to pause the video while you work your way around, then come back to me when you've got this attached. We'll weave in the loose ends, and then we can also make the curly vines and the leaf to go on the hat as well. Back at the beginning, I'm going to finish on the inside of the hat, go back over that very first stitch that I did and pull through, and then I'm going to turn my hat inside out, and I'm just going to secure this just by tying a little knot. But you want to make sure that you're only picking up the back loops, because you don't want the green showing through on your orange on the right side when you come to flip it back right side out. And then I just go up a couple of stitches so I know it's not going to be seen on the outside of my hat, and just thread that loose end exactly the same as you did with all your other loose ends. And then you can trim that loose end, and that's the top of your hat nice and secure. So when you turn it right side out, your pumpkin should be looking a little bit like this now. Aren't they cute? I love them. So what we're going to make next is the curly vine for the side of the hat, which we're going to sew onto the top of here. So you want to grab your green yarn again and your crochet hook, and let's make that together. So to begin your curly vine, what you want to do is make yourself a slip knot and pop this onto your hook, and then we're going to chain 40. So remember, these are all the same pattern regardless of the size of hat that you've chosen to make. So we're going to yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through, in total 40 times. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39 and 40. So then what we're going to do is we're going to start in the second chain from the hook again. So here's my first chain and here's my second. Again, I'm going to be working in the back bumps, but feel free to either work from the front or into the back bumps, whichever you're most comfortable with. And starting from this second chain here, I'm going to insert my hook and place a UK double crochet, and then I'm going to go back into the same chain and place the second one. So every chain along until we've worked our way all the way across, we're going to be placing 2 UK double crochets or 2 US single crochets. So inserting your hook into your next chain and place 2 into there, then move on to your next chain and place another 2, and you'll notice that it starts to curl up, which is what we want. So we're putting too many stitches for the space that we've got, which is what causes it to curl and make the lovely curly vine. So if you continue working your way across, press pause and come back to me when you're almost at the end, and I'll show you how we make the second half of this vine. My last 2 double crochets into my very last chain. So there's 1 and there's 2, and you should now have a nice curly vine to add onto your hat. To make the second half of it from this point here, what you want to do is chain 30. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29 and 30. So I only do 30 on this side because I like one vine being a little bit shorter than the other, and then I'm just going to repeat those steps. So starting in the second chain from the hook, we're just going to insert our hook and pop 2 UK double crochets into that second chain from hook, then move on to my next chain and place 2 into that space, 1 and 2, move along into my next chain and place 2 into that one, and I'm just going to place 2 UK double crochets in every chain along until I get back up to the middle here. So if you want to work your way along and come back to me when you're ready to finish off your second half of the vine, and then we'll attach it to the hat. I'm just at my last chain of the second half of the vine, and I'm going to place 2 double crochets into that last chain, 1 and 2, and then I'm just going to slip stitch to join and chain 1. Leave a long enough loose end just to sew that onto your hat. Pull up on your chain 1, hold the chain 1 between your thumb and your finger and pull firmly just to secure that. And that's how I make my curly vines to go on top of the hats. So then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to thread one of these loose ends onto my darning needle and then take my hat, and I like to pop mine just on the side here with the shorter vine towards the centre of the hat and the longer vine towards the outside of the hat. And again, I'm just going to do a couple of stitches through both of the vine and the hat to attach. I do go over this several times just because it's for a baby, so I just want to make sure that it's nice and secure and it's not going to come off. So if you want to press pause while you go ahead and attach your curly vines, and then come back to me. You'll just weave in the loose ends exactly how we've done with the top of the stalk and for the main body of the hat. So if you want to go ahead and do that, and come back to me when you're ready to make the leaf, and we'll do that together. So to begin the leaf, we're going to make a slip knot and place that onto our hooks. And we need to do a foundation chain of 12, so I'm going to yarn over and pull through 12 times, so that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. So for this leaf, I'm going to work into the chains from the front. I'm not working into the back loops like I normally would do. I'm starting in the second chain from the hook. So here's my first chain, here's my second. I'm going to insert my hook into that chain, and I'm going to place a UK double crochet. And then I'm going to place 1 UK double crochet into the next 9 stitches. So in total I'll have 10 stitches going along this side. Move into my next chain along and place my second one. Move up to my next chain. So that's 3. Move along for 4. 5. 6, 7, 8, 9, and here's 10. And you should just have 1 chain left, and what we're going to do into this last chain is we're going to work 3 double crochets, or 3 single crochets in US terminology. So there's 1, and it's easier if you pivot your work around as you do this. 2 and 3. So now we're going to work down the opposite side, and the way I like to do it is just by going underneath one of the strands of yarn that make up the next chain. I tend to find if I go underneath both of the strands that complete the chain, then I'm left with quite large gaps running down the middle of my leaf. So I do only pick up one of the 2 strands of yarn that's left making up each chain, and we're going to place 1 double crochet in the next 8 chains. Going to carry over my loose end as well, save me having to sew it in later. So that's 1. Move on to my next one and place a second one. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and there's 8. And you should just have 2 chains here that you're not working any stitches in, and that's exactly what you want. You're going to chain 1 and turn your work. For row 2, we're just going to be working in the back loops again, so same as we did with the main body of the hat, and we're going to be placing 1 back loop double crochet in the first 9 stitches. So this chain 1 is a turning chain and doesn't count as a stitch, so I'll be working into this very first stitch here and just inserting my hook just under that back loop only, yarn over, pull up a loop and place my double crochet, and I need to do that in the first 9 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and here's my 9th, 9, and then into this 10th stitch along I'm going to place 3 back loop only double crochets, so just going underneath that back loop and place 3 UK double crochets into that space, again pivoting my work around And then going down along this side, we would need to put 1 back loop only double crochet in the next 9 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. So again, you should have 2 stitches that we're not working into. That's exactly what you want, don't panic. And then we're going to move on to row 3. So we're going to chain 1 again and turn our work. Again, the chain 1 is just a turning chain and doesn't count as a stitch. We're going to be working into the stitch directly below it here for our first stitch of row 3, and we're going to be placing 1 back loop double crochet in the first 10 stitches. So inserting my hook just underneath the back loop and placing 1 double crochet into the first 10 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. And then into this next stitch along, we're going to be placing 3 back loop only double crochets. So that's 1, back into it to place my second, and back in to place my third. And then working along this edge, I'm going to place 1 back loop only double crochet in the next 8 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. Again, that leaves 2 stitches that I've not worked into. And then to move up to row 4, chain 1 and turn. Again, this chain 1 is a turning chain and doesn't count as a stitch. We're going to move into this very first stitch here directly underneath it, and we're going to place 1 back loop double crochet in the first 9 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and there's 9. And then into this 10th stitch here, we're going to place 3 back loop only double crochets. So there's 1, back into the same stitch and place a second, and back in for a third time to place my third. Then into the next 9 stitches, we're going to place 1 back loop double crochet. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9, and again leaving 2 stitches not worked into. Chain 1 and turn to start row 5. Again, the chain 1 is a turning chain, and we're going to work directly into our first stitch just below it here, and we're going to place 1 back loop double crochet in the first 10 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10, and then into this 11th stitch we're going to place 3 back loop double crochets, 1, 2 and 3, and then into the next 8 stitches we're going to place 1 back loop only double crochet. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So again, we're leaving those 2 stitches not worked into. Chain 1, and this is the last row of the leaf. Turn your work. We're not counting the chain 1 as a stitch again, we're working directly into the one underneath, which is our first stitch, and we're placing 1 back loop only double crochet in the first 9 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9, and then into this 10th one we're going to do it a little bit differently. We're going to make a little stem, so we're going to place 1 back loop only double crochet, then we're going to chain 4, 3 and 4, and then we're going to place 1 double crochet in the second chain from the hook and 1 UK double crochet in the next 2 chains, 1, and this is my last chain here, and 2, and then back into this same stitch here. Just make sure it doesn't flip the wrong way because mine just flipped then. We're just going to place 1 more back loop double crochet just to join it all, and then we're going to place 1 back loop only double crochet in the next 9 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. So then you'll chain 1, and again leave a long enough loose end for you to attach this onto your hat, so leave quite a nice length of a loose end, snip that off, pull up on your chain 1 to pull that loose end through, place the chain 1 between your thumb and your finger and pull it firmly to secure. Now if you carried your loose end over at the beginning like I did, then you can trim that off now. If not, then you'll need to weave that loose end in as well. So then I'll just grab my hat and I'll thread this loose end from the leaf that we've just done. I love these leaves, I think they're really pretty. And then what I do is I just weave this loose end through the back loop only of these stitches until I get down to the very bottom of the stem. I think I definitely needed my glasses on today. I'm struggling and I can't find them anywhere. I don't know where I've put them. So just have a little bit of patience until you get to the base and then you can pull that through. Sunshine here is terrible. Well, I mean it's lovely, but it's really affecting my filming today, so I'm sorry if you've noticed any dips and real big peaks in the lighting. I've been trying my best to adjust my camera throughout, but it's been a bit difficult. And then I just like to sew this just so the stem of the leaf just goes over the vine a little bit and then it sits to the side. So I'll just thread that up through the top there just so I can see where I'm stitching. Just hold it over the top of that curly vine, and again I'm just going to make sure I go through all the layers going in and out, and then once I've attached it, I make sure that I go over it a good couple of times again. So I'm children and babies, so we want to make sure that they are very firmly attached. So if you want to press pause just while you attach this leaf and weave in your loose end, and your finished pumpkin hat should look something a little bit like this. And I think they look gorgeous, they're so cute, especially with Halloween coming up. I really do hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and if you do make one of these hats and you've not already joined and become a member of the Facebook group, I'd love to see you over there as well. It's just called Rocco Baby Crochet. And if you don't want to miss out on my next tutorial and free pattern, don't forget to make sure that you subscribe to the channel, and it will also just support Rocco Baby Crochet as well. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care, happy hooking, and I'll see you real soon. Bye!